What's going on, Comicbook.com? I'm Jim Viscardi, and we are here in our studio at Comic-Con 2022, and I am here with Comic-Con royalty. Kevin Smith, welcome.
I honestly, there was a time where I'd be like, oh, come on, not royalty. But I love it when people say like that.
Dude.
It means that there are people who feel that way, like they see me as a fixture here, and that's something that I wanted when I was a kid. When I first came to this con in '95, I was like, I want to be a part of this. I want to be like the way Stan Lee is here. Mm-hmm. Everyone was happy to see Stan when they saw him in the hallways and stuff. And it's, taken me the better part of 30 years, but I think I'm there. I think I'm in a place where,
you're there.
I can accept that.
You are 100% there. Thank you. So let's talk about the Clerks III trail. There's a joke in there about not wanting to avoid being sued by Disney.
Yes.
I have to assume, is there stuff on the cutting room floor that you had to leave behind because you were afraid?
No, I've been since I started making flicks, like back in '93 is when we started making Clerks. Came out in '94. You could reference things,
sure,
and get away with it. Now it's changed a little bit in as much as I remember on Jay and Silent Bob reboot, Silent Bob was doing a version of the speech in Glengarry Glen Ross that Alec Baldwin gives, and for the first time ever, they're like, we have to clear that with David Mamet, and I'm like,
oh wow,
why? It's a reference. They're like, no, you're literally doing words from that movie, and I'm like, but half of my dialogue is words from other movies, right. And then you realize that the legal mores have shifted over time, where you do have to get permission if you're going to drop references or a long piece of quote or something like that. But it's just about keeping it small and keeping it pithy,
sure,
and then you can get away with it.
That's fair. You famously said when you were doing the first Clerks movie, you sold your comics collection to finance it.
I did.
What was in that collection?
I have a complete list still on my desk, of the entire thing. The only thing that's missing on the list is I had a Sandman sculpture that Graffiti Designs put out, and it's listed on my list, but it's not the number. I wish to God I'd listed what number it was, because it was one of whatever.
Right.
Because I would go try to hunt that down. That was the one piece that I really feel like if I can, I wouldn't call it the Rosebud, but it's it'd be amazing to own that piece that I bought years ago.
Right.
But the rest of it was not Golden Age, not Silver Age.
Okay.
It was at that point, which would be the '90s, pretty much modern age.
Okay.
The most expensive book I had ever was a giant-sized X-Men annual, which I eventually sold for $200. But it wasn't this oh my God, the priceless collection.
Right.
It was just a pretty standard collection.
Have you bought it all back since?
I bought a comic book store 25 years ago, and I kind of felt like that
that does it? Perfect.
It is kind of like owning, having a collection that everybody just picks through and stuff. But I picked up the key books that I always loved. I still have those. But I didn't go back and recollect everything that I did, because I was just a guy that bought two of everything and bagged and board one and read the other.
Can you tell us what some of your crown gems are of your comic collection?
Current comic collection?
Current
I still have a complete run of Denny O'Neil and Dennis Cowan Question, which was, not a book that everyone talks about, didn't redefine the business, but I absolutely loved it. I still have my French editions of The Dark Knight Returns, which is one of the classiest books I ever bought in my life. I have my entire Daredevil Born Again run, because that contains my single favorite comic book image of all time. Kind of defines comic books to a large degree. You remember Born Again.
Of course.
So in the storyline, for those who don't remember Born Again, the Kingpin single-handedly dismantles Matt Murdock's life, because he finds out that Matt Murdock and Daredevil are the same person.
That's right.
Finds out by indirect means, Karen Page, who sold his secret. She became a junkie and stuff. She's countries away. She sells his secret and stuff. Secret travels back to Kingpin. He has everybody killed who's heard the secret, and then he dismantles Matt Murdock's life, and he does it incredibly effectively. So in the last issue, seminal piece. In one of the last issues, before Nuke happens in the storyline, Karen Page comes to New York City, comes to Hell's Kitchen to warn Matt that the secret is out and blah, 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 stuff that he already knows, and his life has already been pulled apart. He's no longer even Daredevil anymore. So she's on the streets of New York. She's been chased there by this junkie pimp or whatever the hell, and he's going to kill her in the street. She's trying to do one last fix. It is a dark moment in comics. She's trying to do one last heroin fix before she gets killed by this guy. And just as the dude's about to shoot, this is gonna make me cry. Billy Club comes out of nowhere, knocks the gun out of his hand, there's this gorgeous panel. It's a splash page, and it's just two figures. It's Matt Murdock. He's not even dressed like Daredevil. He's got the beard, and he's holding a very a bereft and joyfully weeping Karen Page. One of the most moving images I've ever seen in comics because it defines the medium.
Mm-hmm.
That really dude didn't even need a mask to save that person's life, and he didn't have to save her life. She his life.
It was,
and he put her in front of him. That is the definition of a hero, man. So I made sure that I've never let that go.
That's awesome.
I always go to the trade paperback form or an actual pamphlet form, as some say. I still have that in my life.
I've got to ask, you mentioned him earlier, Stan.
Yeah.
You had said you had offered Stan a role in Clerks 3.
Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Oh, sorry, reboot. Yeah. Can you... have you ever said what that role would have been?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have, but I can talk about it here. Stan was meant to be our entire third act. In the third act of Jay and Silent Bob reboot, Kevin Smith is the director of the Blunt Man and Chronic movie they're making, and Russian terrorists show up and say they're going to kill him, to make some sort of statement. It's not,
right.
The logic is real sketchy. But in the first iteration, it was Stan that showed up to take out and stuff. So it was much more. We're gonna lose, and he was a figure of pop culture chairman emeritus. So as a figure of the decadent West, he would be somebody for them to strike out or take down or something. Sadly, we lost Stan. He wanted to do it so bad too. He would always, because I told him early on, I was like, Stan, because ever since Mallrats, the guy was always like, when are we going to work together again, Kevin? Spider friend? And I'd be like, Stan, the last time we did, nothing good happened. That movie tanked. But then it grew up to be a beloved movie. People love Mallrats. It didn't do all the box office. People still embraced it. So he would always ask me, when are we doing another movie? And I was like, one day. And then sooner or later, I started reaching out to him again, be like, listen, you want to do one? Come do this. I just thought he was just being nice. This is the you say when you say people hey, put me in another movie. Right. But he was serious. He loved doing it.
That's awesome.
To a large degree. So he was eager to play. He was like, so I get to take on Russian terrorists? I was like, yeah, they're also Canadian. He's like, I love that. But we never got there. So
in the Clerks 3 trailer, we get to see Ben Affleck make a bit of cameo. Is that the extent of what we see of Ben, or will fans get to see?
He's in a little more, but it's in that sequence.
Okay.
We do a sequence where they're auditioning people for the movie they're making called Inconvenience, which is very Clerks-like. And so he's one of the auditioners, but he's got a few other jokes and stuff, but he's just pretty much in that sequence.
Nice. I got to talk to you about Masters of the Universe, which has been so much fun. I got my daughter into it now. Now she loves it.
Thank you.
Great.
That's awesome. We were always hoping when we made it, it's this is chiefly for people who grew up with it, but hopefully they bring their kids to it as well. And I've met a lot of people who are like, I watched it with my kids and they dig it, and it does my heart great.
What are you excited for fans to see for the stuff coming up?
For Revolution?
Yeah.
We teased it at the end of Revelation with the appearance of Hordak. And so Revolution is literally He-Man versus Skeletor versus Hordak. And it's nonstop fucking action. There's a poignant story that kind of runs under it and stuff. But it's, I think it's probably the show that people were looking for the first time.
Yeah.
Whereas I was like, let's tell a story what the world means without He-Man. We'll tell a great He-Man story by not using He-Man, and that made some people very angry. So this time around, He-Man every damn episode, and He-Man, not just Adam. It's He-Man.
There we go. Is there another property like that if you could get your hands on, you would just, die at the opportunity for?
This is going to sound so weird, but it's very akin to Masters of the Universe in my head because there were two shows that I watched right around the same period. Do you know Gem and the Holograms?
Oh man, yeah.
Gem and the Holograms is a superhero story.
It is.
At the end of the day, secret identity, works at a corporation, but by night, I touch my starlight earrings, and suddenly I become a rock star. I watched that show just like I used to watch Motu back in the day. And sometimes I watch it and make fun of them because I was older than these cartoons, I felt, and stuff, but yet I watched them every damn day and followed them like a soap opera. So I know a shocking amount about Gem and the Hologram.
That's
so
incredible.
I'm probably not the guy for it, being that
Sure.
A, I'm a guy, B, I'm
Right.
51 years old. But yeah, I do got a lot of Gem knowledge.
That's awesome. And one last question before I let you go. You've been teasing this mysterious 80s movie.
Yeah.
What can you tell us?
It's the next thing. It's not all that mysterious. I just haven't said what it is yet. But yeah, it's the next thing we're working on. It's, traditionally I've always just kind of taken from my own life to tell stories. And those stories kind of begin in the 90s. This goes back a little bit further. This is kind of a little memoir about a day at the movies, how we used to spend our days at the movies. It's about hopping theaters.
That's awesome.
It's about sneaking from theater to theater and seeing movies and stuff. That's
Awesome.
what I did most of my youth, and it led to all this.
That's great. Kevin, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you for spending time with me and for the continued coverage
Look,
of Kevin Smith.
if there's one thing that
My
Comicbook.com
God.
loves, it's Kevin Smith.
You're the only ones in the world. Like, it's so gratifying. Like, whenever I'm just reading through the news, it never fails. I will come on some article from you guys alone, just you guys, where they're like, Kevin Smith said a thing. And invariably, there's a bunch of people who are like, who gives a Why? Why do you keep telling me what he likes? I love it. My mother loves it. My mother's like, I saw you in the news today. I was like, you're right, Ma. Comicbook.com news.
That's awesome. For more from Comic-Con 2022, keep it locked into Comicbook.com.